Hello and welcome back to Elden Ring. Today I'm sitting at this campfire together with this merchant to talk to you about questlines and NPCs. Let's start with what is a questline in a video game and how do questlines look in Elden Ring. Well, a typical quest is a task that an NPC gives you. For example, ask this NPC and he will tell you that you have to kill 5 boars because he can't do it. Or you have to save this village from the bandits. Or you have to retrieve that item that NPC XYZ lost in the water. These are all quests and they follow a fairly similar gameplay loop. And Elden Ring is no exception. The gameplay loop is also fairly similar, and it all works this following way. You have to talk to an NPC, they tell you that you have to do something. Sometimes it's straightforward, and in Elden Ring sometimes it's a bit cryptic, and then you have to meet them again in a maybe the same location or a different location. But this is basically the gameplay loop that every quest in almost every game works like. Find NPC, talk to NPC, do something, find the NPC again, talk to them again, and repeat. So from that, Elden Ring's quest lines don't really feel all that unique, but they are. They feel completely different to quest lines of other games. So why is that the case? Well, first of all, you don't have a quest log. There is no UI helper, and you don't have an arrow that points you to the direction the NPC wants you to go to, I don't know, retrieve a specific item or something. Then the NPCs are written the way that they're talking to you like a normal person would talk to you. They're not just telling you, hey there, just give me this item and I go to the next location and I will reward you with 20,000 experience, this super unique item and, I don't know, 11 health potions. That's not how it works. They're written in a way that it feels natural, that it feels like a, well, fairly one-sided dialogue, like you're not talking to them directly, they're doing the talking, and you sometimes have the option to click one answer or the other, but, well, they're written the way that they feel like you're talking to them. They're telling you a story, they're not directly telling you what to do next. Then another factor is that NPCs have their own story/quest line. You're not the center of their quest line. They have their own agency, they're doing what they think is the right thing, and you're for the most time not the protagonist of their quest line. Sometimes you turn or you become the protagonist, but at least at the start they have their own quest line and you're merely aiding them in that quest line. Of course, you sometimes have to talk to them to progress that quest line, but it's more for your entertainment rather than for their quest line itself, if it makes sense. Then we also have NPCs or multiple NPCs that work against or with each other on the same quest line. For example, the Prince of Death's quest line has technically 4 NPCs involved in them. We have Fear, we have Roger, Dee and Dee's brother, and it's basically a 2v2. They're technically 2 factions fighting each other or working against each other. And then we have rewards. Every quest line has rewards. Every quest in every video game has some sort of reward, and Elden Ring is nothing different, but most of the time the reward you get is fairly minimal. It's not like you're getting like 10 million XP for finishing a quest line, but you're getting the story as a reward. You're getting the resolution as a reward. You're getting the knowledge, the lore, the story of that quest line, the feeling you get for accomplishing something. That is most of the time the reward. Not a physical reward like you get this sword, or you get this upgrade material. Sometimes you do get that sword or that upgrade material, but the knowledge of finishing that story is more rewarding most of the time, at least the first time you're playing through that questline, than the physical reward itself. So these are all things, or all good things, that make Elden Ring questlines feel different from other video game questlines. But I wouldn't talk about this topic if everything is fine, so here are the things that I think are missing. First of all, NPCs don't move. They're not moving an inch. The only thing that they're moving is their mouths when they're talking to you, which I guess is a right step in the right direction, but it's not enough in my opinion. They're not moving at all, they're not moving from their position, they're not interacting with other NPCs or with their environment. When they move to a different location, they're teleporting from location to location, they're not moving there physically. And when there is action, for example in the quest line where Fia kills D, everything that you can see is the thing after the action. You can only see how she's hovering near him. You don't see how she is actually killing him. So there is no action in their movement, there is no interaction with their environment, there is nothing basically. Remember your first time arriving at the round table hold. The first time you see, I think, 4 NPCs in the room with the round table. You see Sir Gideon Ofnir, you see Dialos, Dee and Corrin. Corrin, Dialos and Sir Gideon Ofnir are all standing in different locations, and Dee is sitting at the table on a chair. And they are not talking or interacting with each other, they're not doing something, they're just sitting and standing there. So imagine the following thing. Imagine Dialos and Dee would talk about something, Corrin would, I don't know, do something with his miracle stuff, and Sir Gideon Ofnir is writing something down. And then you are arriving. The portal, the summoning portal, would appear on the ground, and you would slowly emerge from that portal. Dee and Dialos would suddenly stop talking, and they would look at you. Corrin would also stop doing what he's doing, I guess, and he would look in your direction, or face at least in your direction. He can't really see with that blindfold on. And Sir Gideon Ofnir is just still writing down his stuff because he doesn't care about you. That would feel much better than what we have right now. Like 4 NPCs in the same location, doing nothing, interacting with nothing, and just standing and sitting there, waiting for you to approach them, to talk to them, basically. So how would you fix things like this? How would you change it? How could you change it? Well, first of all, give them a cycle they're going through, right? For example, Sir Gideon Ofnir doing something on his desk. NPCs talking to each other until you approach them and want to talk to them individually. Give them a cycle of sometimes they're going in this room and doing that, and sometimes they're doing something in the other room and you have to find them. How would they do things in the open world? Well, fairly similar. I'm sitting right now next to an NPC and they're doing nothing. They're just sitting there. Why aren't they trying to sleep maybe during the night? Why aren't they trying to get something out of the basket on the donkey? Why isn't he sometimes playing his instrument and sometimes roasting something on the fire? Like, these small idle animations are things that are fairly easy to implement, and with easy I mean not easy in the sense of, oh, it's so totally easy to create all these different animations. No, it's fairly easy from a gameplay perspective. Like, you can easily implement them without breaking something, because things like teleporting from location to location, like when you want them to walk to a certain location in the overworld, not in the safety of the round table hold, that is something that gets tricky. Because if you want an NPC to move from location A to location B, and in between these locations there's the potential for enemies, then how should they react? Should the enemies attack that person? Should they ignore that person? If they attack that person, then is this person invulnerable? Are they invincible? Or can they die? If they can die, you better have a very good AI that can deal with that threat. If they can't die, then you can abuse that by just pulling every enemy to them so they can deal with the threat for you. So both things are not optimal. And if they completely ignore that NPC or can't harm them in any way or form, even if they cast or hit right through them, then it's also immersion breaking. So you have to design your game that way that they interact with each other in a good way where they can't just die. Or at least make it so that they can't die easily. For example, by giving them an enormous health pool, but there is still a small risk of them dying. Or I guess they could do it the way they have done it with other NPC fights in the game right now, where they can still hurt each other, but they deal such a small amount of damage, like they deal per hit each other like 1 damage, where the player basically has to intervene, and they will only start fighting each other when the player is nearby so they can witness the fight, because why should they fight each other when the player's not nearby? Right? When the player is not nearby and it's time for that NPC to move to the next location, then it can just walk by every NPC without fighting them, because the player won't ever see that. So you have to think, really. You have to trick around, you have to use certain tricks they've used before, but I think it's still possible to achieve this immersion, where NPCs are traveling through the world without teleporting around and stuff like this. Then there is another problem with having to reload the area to trigger certain things. For example, the bell-bearing hunter. The bell-bearing hunter comes only at night, and I still don't know the rule behind their appearance, because sometimes you just go to that location and all of a sudden the bell-bearing hunter appears, or you talk to that NPC and then you have to reload the area and they still have the same dialogue, so you have to reload the area again and stuff like these. Like, reloading the area in order to trigger an event or to progress a questline is fairly tiresome. I know it's supposed to be there to keep the illusion of passing time, because some events happen at a different time, right? Like night events, for example, or you are not supposed to hear that dialogue directly after the dialogue before. There should be some days in between that, but you can abuse this system by just reloading the area, and that doesn't really feel that good. And then of course we have quest lines where you have seemingly a choice. For example, kill that NPC or let that NPC live. But most of the time, if not all of these times, the bad choice, quote unquote, the bad choice, is not really worth it, and it's not even fleshed out. What do I mean by that? Like, why would I kill Millicent, for example? At the end, I have the choice between helping Millicent or killing her. Why would I kill her? There is no good reason for me to kill her. The only reason I have is because Gowry says so. Why would I trust Gowry? I have no good connection to Gowry. He's just sitting in his weird shack. Why would I help him? Or why would I kill Raya, right? Like, she asked me to kill her because she's feeling bad. Why would I do that? There's no good reason for that, and there are more of these cases in the game, but I'm not pointing out all of them, but this is basically something that I really don't like about the current state of the game, where you seemingly have choices, but these choices are so one-sided that you're always doing the one thing over the other. I guess the kill or help Millicent thing is the closest thing to a fairly good implementation, but it's still lacking. So these are the things that I would like to see fleshed out or outright changed. Let me know if there's something that I haven't talked about in the comments, and that's it from me. Goodbye.